My name is Tia and I'm a victim of revenge porn. The recent leak of hundreds of thousands of explicit pictures and videos of Irish women was not my first experience with image-based sexual abuse, and if society doesn't change its values surrounding women's lives, it will not be my last. I've always had a complex relationship with my sexuality and how I present it. Growing up in rural Ireland, I experienced misogynistic rhetoric almost every single day, and like most of us, I found myself being sucked into conversations surrounding slut-shaming. Often, I'd hear people say things like, if you don't want pictures of you being sent around, then don't send them. There are consequences for your actions, or, if you're going to act like a slut, this is what you should expect. With this narrative constantly surrounding me when I was younger, I began to believe it. I began to exhibit behaviour that I am not proud of, and I began to internalise this idea that if I or anyone else were to ever display sexuality in a confident manner, we deserved to suffer. We deserved to feel guilty for having a body and appreciating it, and we should submit ourselves to men in the way that they demand, and take the punishment for trusting them and fulfilling their desires. This is never the case. It's taken me years to realise that no matter how I decide to present myself, or who I decide to show my body to, it has no reflection on my morality, who I am, or who I will become in the future. The saddest thing about my personal experience with image-based sexual abuse is that since becoming a creator on OnlyFans, I have grown to expect it. One of the issues I have with this revenge porn leak in particular is that this is by no means the first time a large folder of nude images of women has been published on the internet. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The main reason this leak has gained media attraction is because it isn't just sex workers. It's underage girls. It's people that go to your school. It's people from your hometown. It's your family. It's people with quote-unquote normal jobs, lives and careers. This type of horrible, traumatic exposure is something sex workers go through almost every single day of our lives, yet no one cares to acknowledge it. We're set apart as the other women. We fulfill the market that men have created in selling our bodies, and we're demonised for doing so. We are constantly having our suffering sexualised, and we are offered little to no resources for help. In several areas of activism related to image-based sexual abuse and the commodification of women in general, sex workers have been at the forefront of the battle. At the Slut Walk in London 2011, it was sex workers who exposed themselves on the street in order to have victims' voices heard. On International Women's Day 2020, it was sex workers who risked their anonymity to highlight the problems caused by the Nordic model for decriminalisation and to protect their colleagues from further discrimination. Throughout history, even during the AIDS crisis, it was sex workers who put their lives on the line to protest for appropriate healthcare, as they are 13 times more at risk of HIV/AIDS than the general public. Those in the erotic industry are constantly taking risks and making sacrifices in order to help marginalised groups in society. So why, during a crisis such as this massive leak of revenge porn, are we still the most discarded in the conversation? Now is not the time for your opinion on sex workers. Now is not the time for your judgment on someone else's life or career. Now is not the time for the saviour complex of so many men, or for others to intervene in sex workers' lives. It is a time for self-reflection and to deconstruct these misogynistic ideals within us that have ultimately led to the endangerment of so many women. Ask yourself, why do I resent sex workers? How do their life's choices impact mine? Why am I so deeply opposed to this idea that women can have enough confidence in their bodies to market them? Why do I feel this need to save sex workers despite not knowing anything about their lives or their level of comfort in their employment? This particular instance of image-based sexual abuse is a unifying experience for all of those involved. Regardless of whether you sell your explicit photos or you've just sent them to a trusted partner, the traumatic and inescapable impact of this form of exposure is the same. Sex workers are not the other women. They are not the perpetrator. They are just as much the victim as everyone else found in these files. The issue with modern legislation surrounding image-based sexual abuse is that it is often vague and allows too much space for law enforcement to opt out of actually helping victims. The Harassment, Harmful Communications and Related Offences Bill is currently the only legislation to protect victims of image-based sexual abuse in Ireland, and it is in desperate need of reform. The language used within this bill is too vague. It fails to protect sex workers' content being redistributed for free. It demands the victim is in emotional distress before a prosecution can be made. And it moves the centre focus of image-based sexual abuse from being a sex crime whilst promoting the strategy of victim blaming. In order to prevent this traumatic event from ever happening again, this bill must be amended. It needs to be inclusive of every single victim, regardless of their career choice or life history. We need this reformed legislation to defend every single victim in every single circumstance. As I've stated previously, this leak is not a one-time incident. Image-based sexual abuse is happening every single day. It's happening in schools, it's happening in the workplace, it's happening on hidden internet forums, it's happening within our police force, as we've seen with Dara Quigley's case. These are the people we're meant to turn to for justice throughout these events. Legislation needs to be reformed worldwide. I'm from the north of Ireland and I'm currently living in Manchester. Today I speak in solidarity with my amazingly strong sisters in the south who have been impacted by this horrific and life-altering event. I speak for sex workers whose voices must be heard, and I speak for those who have sadly lost their battle for justice through image-based sexual abuse. This is not just an issue within Ireland. Change needs to happen worldwide. Legislation within the UK does not cover the anonymity of IBSA victims, making it inaccessible for a majority of sex workers who do not wish to expose their careers to the world. It does not cover the total safety of victims, and often police condescend those who come forward due to their own personal prejudices, leaving no other option for help. Now that these leaks are finally becoming uncovered, and image-based sexual abuse is presenting itself as a mainstream issue, it's our time to fight back. It's time for us to discard our guilt from attitudes we may have held in the past. It's time for us to discard the discomfort we feel in conversations surrounding porn or explicit imagery. As victims, we are not just someone's mother, daughter, or sister. We're human beings. We're independent people with independent lives. We have history and futures ahead of us, and we are worthy of safety and privacy, regardless of how we decide to present our sexuality or what career path we decide to choose. Thank you.